Okay, I'm just going to say hello real quick. I'm Lyssa Seward with TTR Sothebys International Realty. I'm based in Alexandria. I've lived in Fort Hunt for many years, 1992, so really long time. I love it here. And I want to thank my co-panelists, Gale Curcio with Sale by Gale, Toni Miller with Amerisbank, Ryan Stuart with MBH Settlement Group, where I love to do my closings. And they're going to just share different parts of the home sale process. And I'm going to spend most of my 15-minute allocation explaining to you what generally I recommend when people are preparing their homes for sale. And I think one of the first things when you're thinking about downsizing is, oh, dog, where are you going to go and when are you going to do it? And so these are things I find people can be talking about selling for several years before they actually do. So what I'm going to encourage you to do today is just slowly start, give yourself plenty of time, slowly start to think about downsizing and eating that elephant one bite at a time. So when you do purchase that home somewhere else or that condo somewhere else or move closer to your kids, you are not overwhelmed trying to do 6 months worth of work in a month. And I think I am ready for my PowerPoint, my first PowerPoint. Oh, and I did want to say we are doing this to sponsor United Community, one of my very favorite charities, local charities serving the underserved right in our Alexandria community. And I hope you all will consider supporting them. I know Gale is a huge supporter, but they really need help, especially now because there's so many people in need. So just want to give them a shout out. So I think the first thing people ask when they are contemplating a move, be it downsizing or otherwise, is where do I begin? Next slide, please. So I do want to thank you all for joining us, and I thank again my colleagues who are joining us. As discussed, I've been in my house for 28 years, and even though both my husband and I do tend to, not minimalist by any stretch, but we don't have a ton of stuff, but still 28 years, no matter what, and how often you cleanse and organize, you're still going to have a lot of stuff. It's a huge job to move a 4-bedroom house that you've lived in for, over 15 years. We all have deferred maintenance. I always use the example, I told you I'm married to a contractor, so use the example of our roof, which we just replaced about a month ago, which was put on in 1992. And I said, well, it's really, really old, and as soon as it starts to leak, we'll get a new one. But then we ended up patching it, and finally we got a new one. But certainly you can sell your home with old systems and old roofs. It depends if you want top dollar or not, and also depends on market conditions. But I say, as you are contemplating your move, take inventory of the age of things in your homes, and especially things that are not working, and consider fixing those so that you get to enjoy them before somebody else gets to enjoy them. And a big part of this process, Gale Curcio with Sale by Gale is going to go over, but the biggest thing that we need to do in preparing a home for sale is decluttering. And, any stager will tell you, you just want people to see the home. They don't want to see your stuff. They want to see the square footage. They want to see the wood floors. They want to see the unique architectural features, and they want to be able to picture themselves and their stuff in the home. So certainly I think it's well worth the cost to work with an estate planner. I'm not an estate planner, but yes, that's good too. But to work with an estate salesperson, and Gale will go through this in more detail, but you're going to either donate, throw away, or keep. So sort of Marie Kondoing each room in your house. Give yourself a lot of time. I mean, I would say give yourself 6 months so that maybe once a week, you know, or 1 week you tackle one room, 1 week you tackle another. We've all got basements, we've all got attics, so that type of stuff is going to take longer than a week to sort through. And we're going to look during this seminar at ways to make it as easy and as least stressful as possible. So I encourage people to be realistic about how long it takes, because it really takes a long time. A lot of times I'll go to meet people for a listing presentation and they'll say, we'd like to be on the market in 3 weeks. Well, I can easily do that. I've been doing this long enough to know that in real time, it's just not gonna happen that quickly. So just in the name of sanity, I do encourage slow, methodical planning. Next slide, please. So I don't want to minimize the emotional stress of selling a home. It truly is very overwhelming for people to move, especially those of us that are type A, super organized, know where everything is, everything has its place. That all goes out the window during a move. And you need to take it as slow as you can and realize that it's going to be a stressful time when everything gets taken out of your house and brought to your new adventure spot. But you do need to keep in mind that every single thing in your house is going to have to be removed. So a lot of times when people are putting up their house for sale, they're very hesitant to take away certain things, certain treasures, but I think the mindset of realizing every single thing in your house is going to have to come out one way or another is sort of helpful, and you're really just getting a head start on the process. I do encourage you also to consider the ages of your systems, your AC, your furnace, your water heater, how old is your roof, how old are your appliances, are there easy updates you may be willing to do rather than remodel your whole kitchen? Could you paint your cabinets a fun color? Could you replace the countertops? Something that is inexpensive. I also fully realize that people may be infirm or not in a financial position to do anything, and that is perfectly fine, because you can sell a home in any condition. It's just always price dependent, and price definitely overcomes all options. We're very lucky to live in the Fort Hunt area, which is highly desirable. So regardless of whether you are able to present your home in the best possible light to get the most amount of money the market will bear, you still should do very well in the sale of your home. So what I'm saying is, let's say your move is 3 or 4 years down the road. Why not do some of these things now so that you get to enjoy them instead of doing it all for the next person who moves in? Just something to think about. I highly recommend working with a professional, an estate sale person. Somebody can help you organize. There's people like Gale whose business is exactly this, clearing out homes. And I know Gale will get into this a little bit further, but it's not just necessarily for an estate. She can also help you work through your treasures. And I would say that really decluttering is the most important part of this process. Next slide, please. So where should you begin? If you would like top dollar for your home, I would consider these steps. Declutter room by room, pack, donate, throw away. Address deficiencies. We all know everything that's wrong with our homes. We know that toilet that runs. We know the dishwasher that sounds, like an airplane taking off. We know that the ice maker stopped working. So things like that. I would just consider starting to fix the things you know are wrong. If you can afford it, and if your roof is 35 years old, consider replacing it and enjoying it for a bit. And a lot of times it's perfectly fine and also market dependent, because right now we're in a very strong seller's market, so you can get away with a lot more older systems than you can at a time when it's not as much of a seller's market. But it would be better to just have an old roof versus an old roof and old systems and old appliances. So if there's something you're able to afford and update while you're living there, you get to enjoy it, and that is a bonus. The next list is what I would recommend for anyone. Optimal sale prep. People will do all summer none of what we recommend, but optimally, almost every home will need to be painted at some point before you move out. I definitely recommend you consult with a realtor, hopefully me, for color choices. I would recommend that hardwood floors get refinished, or that carpeting get replaced, flooring gets updated, lighting fixtures can get updated, very inexpensive. Vanities can get updated, also relatively inexpensive. And we always want to pay attention to the outside of our house. So fresh mulch, clean garden, whatever you can do to improve the curb appeal, which likely includes painting. We live in a swamp now, apparently, and wood is always rotting, trim is always rotting. That's the type of stuff that a handyman can do relatively inexpensively if you don't have a handy person in your house. And as realtors, we have all kinds of great vendor recommendations for you. And your neighbors may also have great vendor recommendations for you, but just be sure you're using somebody that's recommended by a realtor or family or neighbor. The final step, I always recommend a thorough deep cleaning before a house goes on the market, and including windows washed inside and out. In a way, in a large way, we are selling a lifestyle. So the point of sale to me is when somebody opens that door and walks in, and you want the sunlight flooding in, you want it to be as clean as possible, even if it's not updated. I think that those things are very, very important for somebody to say, yes, this is where I want to live my life. And I think that is about it for this slide. Next slide, please. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but if you or your loved one is in a financial situation where they're unable to make repairs, you can still sell your home. It's just going to affect the price point. There are companies that will do repairs and let you pay at closing. We work with a local contractor that will let you do that. Market dependent, I suppose. If we were in a very slow selling market, that might be a bit harder to maintain. And for my team, Seward Group, we do full service concierge real estate. So much so that literally, if you were going to move, you could hand me the key and I would project manage the entire thing using some of the great people we're talking to today. And just a little bit about COVID, because it's kind of omnipresent. It has impacted all our lives. And what I've noticed in real estate, this is the busiest I've ever been. This is the best year I've ever had, which is great. It also makes me a little bit sad, because I feel like people have had some time to be still, to be quiet, to really evaluate their lives and what matters. And I'm seeing people make big moves, and primarily moving closer to family so they can get help during this time. And it's been very interesting. So I thank you for your time. I hope everybody will stay healthy. And I really want to thank my colleagues, Gale, Toni, and Ryan, for sharing some of their professional wisdom about how the process works, so that it's a little bit less intimidating. And I never want to minimize the stress. It really, it's a big, huge deal to move. And we're very empathetic about that. And don't forget to support United Community because they really do help the underserved in our local community. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Fraser, for organizing it. Does anybody have questions? I see only me. I'm not seeing my people's. There we go. No, is Fraser gone?
No, I'm here, Lisa.
There he is.
I'm just looking. I don't have any questions. Let me see. Please raise your hand if you do have any questions.
Just kidding. I don't have any questions.
Please raise. Everybody should be able to raise their hands on their thing, and I can allow you to talk. Otherwise, I believe we're going to go on to Toni.
Or Gale.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry. Is it Gale next? I'm sorry.
So.
Yeah. All righty. Gale, so you should be good to go. If you'd like to start, I'm going to see if I can spotlight you.
Okay.
There she is.
There we go. Okay. So thank you for joining the downsizing seminar. And my name is Gale Curcio. I'm the owner of Sale by Gale. It's an estate sale business that does sales pretty much in the Northern Virginia area. A few words about what an estate sale is not. It's not a yard sale. It's not a liquidation. It's not the selling of a house. We leave that to the realtors. And it's not a way to partially downsize the house when not moving. Now, this is going to run a little contrary to what Lisa said, and I can address that later. An estate sale typically occurs when a family is moving from, say, 8,000, 6,000 square foot home to a 1,500 square foot home, and they have to do significant downsizing. Or when a loved one passed away and the family's taken what they want, and there's still a significant amount of items to sell. If you think you would be interested in having an estate sale, there's a few things you should consider. Do you have enough items for an estate sale? And will you be able to clear out the house of items you do not want to sell? In a perfect world, the family takes everything they want to keep, and then the estate sale sells everything that's left inside the house. And we'll sell appliances, fixtures, window treatments. We even sell cars. That's not necessary, but I'm saying we will sell everything. So logistically, the family's not always able to get everything out of the house. It's always kind of a chicken before the egg thing, because the realtor is telling you to declutter, and you want to declutter, but you don't know if you should have the sale first, and it's hard to know what the best timing is. But again, it's best to have everything taken out of the house and then do the estate sale. Sometimes people will put the things they want to keep or they want to sell in a pod or something like that. So if the family's not able to get all the things out that they want to keep, we can do it where you put those items in a locked room. We cannot be responsible for selling items that you don't want to sell. So you really have to make sure that your items are locked away that you want to keep, because we'll sell everything. And we go at lightning speed, and if you say, well, I'm going to mark this and mark that, we may not be able to keep track of it. So the best sales is when there's a variety of items: furniture, jewelry, tools, and other items that I will discuss. People often focus on the furniture. They'll say, oh, I've got this antique bureau from grandma, or blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. If it's in good shape, that'll sell. But unless it's Asian or mid-century modern, or like I said, antique in good condition, or something really unusual, furniture is not always going to be your bestseller. There was an article in the Washington Post a while ago talking about the Browns. So this is the bedroom sets and living room sets in cherry or mahogany or veneer. The kids don't want them. They want the light wood. They want Restoration Hardware, Pottery Barn, IKEA. That's not to say they won't sell, but I can't do a sale just with furniture. People are surprised to find out that the bulk of the sale is made up of smalls. These are items that are just a collection of things other than furniture. My favorite saying is tools and jewels. I could sell tools all day long. New tools, old tools, it doesn't matter. The guys love them. And costume jewelry is great, and of course fine jewelry. Some other items that sell well are artwork, CDs, record albums are popular now. Some collectibles, it's hard to know. I can still sell Yadros and Hummels, not for top dollar, but I can still get some money for them. Garden items, the statuaries, fountains, stuff like that. Military items sell very well. Holiday items, purses, shoes, hats. Sterling silver sells well. Silver plate, no. And anything from the 50s or 60s, which we call vintage now. Clothes, purses, toys, games. People love that stuff. The items that are hard to sell are china, silver plate, dining room and bedroom sets, with exception. Upholstered furniture, unless it's kind of a more neutral fabric and in good shape. And glassware is very hard to sell, unless it's Waterford or some other high-end crystal. When looking for an estate sale company, I suggest that you look at estatesales.net or estatesales.org. They're the two most widely used sites. You just enter your zip code, and the companies, you can either put out a request and you can have companies respond to you, or you can just call companies directly. I feel like it's important to hire a company that specializes in your area because they know the customers and they can advertise accordingly. For example, Sale by Gale only works in Alexandria, Arlington, Springfield, Falls Church, and occasionally Fort Washington and Maryland. The bulk of our customers are from there, and we have a huge following. We found that when we go out to Fairfax or Woodbridge, we just don't do as well. So we tend to stay around here. We have plenty of business, and we don't have to drive as far. So it's a win-win for everybody. Second thing, you have to determine if the company you're looking to hire is available. With COVID, we're all slammed. Just like the realtors are slammed, the estate sale companies are slammed. Fewer companies are actually doing the sales, and there's just a huge demand because, as Lyssa said, a lot of people are moving. So if you don't want to, if you call somebody and say, I want to sell next week, and they're booked for the next month, that's not going to be a fit. Unlike other companies, Sale by Gale is not set up to do online sales. We started back up doing in-person sales in June. We've been very, very lucky. Everybody wears masks. We have a screen at the checkout. We limit the amount of people who come in, and everybody's been very compliant. And we've had wonderful, wonderful successes during June, July, August, and into September. So we feel very lucky, but we are booked in, at least a month out. So assuming you found a company and they're in your area and they can do it when you need it, then they'll ask about the contents. And this goes back to what I discussed before, kind of about the contents, Yeah. Some companies have upper limits, like they won't take a sale unless they think it's going to bring in 10 to 15,000. Sale by Gale doesn't do that way, but we want to make sure there's a good combination that'll bring enough people in, because we want you to make money. I mean, the more money you make, the more money we make. So it's we want to make sure there's kind of a good variety to bring people in. Everybody works differently, but we suggest that we set up a meeting. We'll come out to the house, spend a half hour, kind of just go through. You show us what you are not taking and what's for sale, and we'll give you an assessment. There are other options to having an estate sale, and I will discuss that briefly at the end of this discussion. Industry standard commission rates are anywhere from 25% to 50%. Sale by Gale does 35%, so that's 65% to you, 35% to us. Some companies will charge a deposit or maybe some other fees. The only other fee we have other than our commission is a moving fee at the end if you ask us to do the total clear out, and I'll go over that in more detail. Speaking of clear out, that is another question you need to ask the estate sale company. Are they able to do the clear out after the sale? Unfortunately, no matter how good a sale is, there's always going to be probably about 1/3 of the stuff left after the sale. So we leave it up to the client. They can take care of it themselves, or we'll do the full clear out. And for us, it's a 3-step process. The Monday after the sale, we have an auction company come in. They'll take everything that they think they can sell. It's about 2 months, and you'll get a check for them, and there's no fee up front. They include the pickup fee in the commission. Then the second day, we have a donation company come, and they'll take as much as they can. And then the third day, we have a mover. The mover will take the mattresses, the upholstered furniture, you know, the stuff in the garage that nobody wants. And so whatever they charge us, we charge you. We don't pad it. It's just a pass-through. So it can be anywhere, I say from $500 to $1,500. It's not usually not that high unless there's a lot of big items left. So it's usually more like $500 to $750. So you signed the contract, you picked a date, what now? So we tell people all you have to do is figure out what you want to keep, and we'll do everything else. Now, we have people who think they've got to clean the house, they've got to organize. I mean, whatever organization you want to do is fine, but it is not necessary. We'll come in, we'll bring our tables, we clear out cabinets and drawers and sort it and price it, and then we advertise everything. So we do ask that you do the sorting of personal and financial papers. We do not do that. If we do find some that are left behind, we'll just put it in a box, like in the front hall closet, and put it away for you. I always tell people, and this again goes a little contrary to Lyssa, you know, I'm not, you know, questioning her because she has a good point. But sometimes I get to appointments and people have already given away half their stuff and thrown away, you know, their grandfather's military jacket. So, I mean, yeah, you got oily rags, you got old food, that's fine. But I tell people, if you think you're going to have an estate, so don't start getting rid of stuff, because you never know. People will buy half bottles of Windex for 50 cents. So I feel that we try to sell everything, and then what's left, then you can donate or get rid of. It's extremely important to have your items sorted before we come for setup. A lot of times we get to the house on Monday before the sale, and people are still trying to figure out what they're going to keep. It's very problematic because it just delays things. Every company's different. Our setup is typically Monday through Thursday, 10 to 3. I'm old. I can't work more than 5 hours a day. So, and then the sale is Friday 9 to 3, Saturday 8:30 to 3, and Sunday 8:30 to 1. We really don't like to have people living in the house either. Now, it's not because we don't like them, but we found that it just causes problems. If they're living there, they have their coffee cup out, their computer, their glasses. We need to remember what's for sale, what's for not. It's much more clean if the people are gone. And plus, if they're there and they're asking questions, that's just it's distracting. So I understand this isn't always possible because, you know, you're juggling, you're trying to, you know, sell the house and all, but I'm just kind of giving you the perfect scenario. Again, we'll work around it the best we can. So, as I said, typical sale is 3 days. First day is full price. Second day is 25% off. And the third day is 50%. This has just become standard in the industry. It's hard to fight that. If you have something really special that you're not 100% sure you want to get rid of, say, grandmother's dough box, and you want to put a limit of it on 500, you don't want to go half price, that's fine. I just ask that you don't do that for a lot of items. We will give you a list before the sale of items $50 and over, and what we're going to price it at. And so that way you can look, you can say, oh, that was from TJ Maxx, it's really not worth that much. Or you say, you know what, that was from the 1830s, can you get a little more? And we'll accommodate as best we can. We accept cash, check, and credit cards. So the one thing I didn't mention is that we often get calls from people who want to just sell a few things, or they want to have a partial sale. So we recently opened a showroom, and so we can purchase items, depends on what they are, and whatever space we have available. I don't do partial sales anymore. Partial sale is somebody says, well, you know what, I'm going to move everything I want to sell down to the basement. And I used to do that. It did not work. Clients not happy, customers aren't happy. It's confusing what's for sale, what's not for sale. Customers are like, there's not enough here, blah, blah, blah. So other companies might do that. I don't. But as I said, I am available to buy certain things and bring to my showroom. I don't take it on commission. I pay outright. So it'll be a lower price because I have to take the chance that if I give you $25 for a lamp, I'll be able to sell it for 50. Now I might get 100, but I might get 10. So there are plenty of companies. I usually recommend Evolution Home for consignment, and I have a whole list of referrals I give to people for clear outs and stuff. And I can, in some cases, do a full clear out. I'll take what I think I can buy and then, donate or send to auction the other items. So I'm always happy to give referrals if I can help you, and there are other options. But this is kind of an overall explanation of what's involved if you do an estate sale. So thank you again to Lyssa and Fraser and for setting this up. And give me a call if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Toni, who is our lender.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Toni Miller, and I am with Amerisbank. And when it comes to financing, especially downsizing, I think the question on everyone's mind is, how do you buy before you sell? And I think that question is very relevant and important in our area, given the extremely competitive market. I think Lyssa can tell you that you have multiple contracts on, multiple offers on a listing. And so you don't want to go in with a contingent offer. You want to be able to either sell your house first, or, if you are downsizing, you might not be ready to move yet, so you want to be able to purchase first. But most borrowers think that the hurdle is coming up with the funds because their funds are tied to the equity of the house they need to sell. I'm going to discuss several options on how we access that equity in your home prior to selling it, how you access some other available funds that will give you the money you will need, for a down payment for the transaction. But before I do that, I think it's important to talk about what the real hurdle is in how you buy before you sell, and that's that you have to qualify for both mortgages. You have to qualify for your current mortgage payment, and you have to qualify for your new purchase mortgage. And so it's not always about having the funds. Now, if you're retired, you may question whether you're on a fixed income. How am I going to have the income to qualify for both of these payments? But at Ameris, we have a lot of different options, different ways we look at income. One is something called asset depletion, where we will use your assets to qualify you. We deplete them over a certain period of time, and that can be used as a monthly income. You can also gross up any income that is non-taxable. So you might not be thinking that. You say, I'm only getting X for Social Security, but we can actually increase that for qualifying purposes. And the other is that we allow for children to purchase a primary home for their parents if they do not qualify. So if the parents just have a fixed income, if you're one of the parents and you don't qualify, your children can actually purchase that home as a primary home for you, even though they also have a primary. So now that you kind of skipped the leap to qualifying, we need to talk about how you access the equity in your home. And the simple, easy solution would be a home equity loan. And a lot of people have them. You might have used them. You might get one to do all those things Lyssa talked about that you need to do for your home, new roof, all those things. But if you have room on your home equity loan, that is the easiest way to finance the down payment on a new home. Now, if you don't have a home equity loan and you're thinking of moving in 3 to 4 years, now is the time to go ahead and get one. You don't have to access it. It's not going to cost you a monthly payment until you use your line of credit, but it's in place so that you have funds for your down payment. One of the mistakes that people make is they say, I want to put my house on the market. They get ready to do that, and you can't get a home equity loan if your house is already listed for sale. So it's really important to plan ahead, and I think that goes to one of Lyssa's points. It's very important to plan ahead and see if you can access funds with a home equity line. Now, if that is not a possibility, another option, everybody thinks that you have to make a 20% down payment on a home. And if you have some funds, but maybe not enough to put 20% down, you can do something called recast. And a recasting of the loan is where you would put down 5%. You can put as little as 5% down on a purchase price of $805,000. And then once your home sells, you would take the proceeds from your home sale and you would make a principal lump sum payment on that loan. And it would reduce your loan amount. We then take that reduced loan amount
Frozen.
that you would have originally had if you had put 20 or 25% down. So you can, let's see, it says connection is unstable. So recasting the loan is basically just putting a little bit down, and then when you sell your house, you can make that lump sum payment to reduce your mortgage amount. Another option is to do a second trust. Again, if you have the money, the 5%, you can make the purchase using a 20% second trust. And so you would have 75% first trust. You would borrow 20% on as a second trust, which we would help you with both of those. And then when you sell your home, the proceeds of the sale would go to paying off that second trust. And then you end up with a loan amount of 75% of the loan to value. So that's another option. A 401k loan is another way to access funds if you need it for a purchase. I think it's a lot easier than people realize. There are some limits on how much cash you can borrow, but typically we don't have to count your loan payment against you for qualifying purposes. So if you take that loan, you're borrowing from yourself. The other is an IRA, and that is not an option I would recommend. It's more complicated, there's more restrictions, and there's a greater chance that there's going to be a tax liability. So I definitely would encourage you to consult your financial planner for details. I know with COVID, they've made some changes with distribution and penalties, but a financial advisor is going to be able to guide you there as to your IRA and whether it makes sense to take a distribution. The last option, and it's probably the first option most people think of when they're trying to buy before they sell, is a bridge loan. And a bridge loan works well if you have a lot of equity in your home, because it allows you to use the equity prior to selling. And it works like a cash out refinance, because what the bank does is they loan you the money, they pay off your first trust, and then they loan you up to 80% of the value of your home in order to provide you with funds to make a down payment on a new purchase. Now, because a bridge loan is a short-term loan, the interest rate is higher than you would see on a normal purchase, because it is a very short-term loan. It's 12 months is the max that you can carry a bridge loan, but it's an interest-only payment. So it sometimes is a good option. If you're not qualifying for both payments, you may qualify for both payments by getting a bridge loan, because an interest-only payment will drop your regular mortgage payment. And I know that's a lot of information to talk about, but then once you sell your home, the proceeds of the home again would go to a bridge loan. So, I mean, again, I'll kind of go back over these. It's a home equity loan. It's just putting 5% down and doing a recast, which is reamortization of the loan. It's putting 5% down and getting a second trust, and then paying off that second trust with proceeds of your home. Or it's borrowing from a retirement, a 401k or an IRA. And lastly, it's the bridge loan. And the bridge loan can work, again, only if you have a fair amount of equity in your home. All the examples I've discussed are based on loan amounts that fall within conforming limits. And we're very fortunate in our area that the conforming limit is $765,600. Give it to Fanny to make these really weird, non-rounded numbers. But as I said, that allows you, with a loan amount limit of that, you can actually put down 5% on a purchase as high as $805,000. But since 2016, 2006 to 2016, Fannie Mae did not change the conforming loan limits, and they just stayed stagnant. And then around 2016, they started increasing them every year, roughly by $40,000. So why am I telling you this? Why is this important? It's
frozen.
That next year's conforming loan limit could be above $800,000. And what that means, if the loan limit is above $800,000, is you can put 5% down on a purchase of $848,000. So it doesn't take very much money if you think about it in terms of, that's a big purchase, $848, and you could put 5% down. They usually come out with their new loan limits around Thanksgiving, mid-November, so I'm going to be definitely keeping an eye out to make that announcement to all my agents and to anybody that follows me on Instagram or Facebook. So if you don't, certainly please do follow me. But I think, as you can see, there's a lot of available options for you. It's not just straight, you have to have the money or you have to have 20% down. I think that you can certainly look at buying before you sell. But every situation is different, and we tailor it to the specific individual's needs. And that's why it really is important to consult an experienced mortgage professional, hopefully myself, early in the game. It's okay to talk to me 2, 3, 4 years away from your selling your house and wanting to downsize, because we come up with a plan. And then when you get to it, there's no stress because we already know what the plan's going to be financially, and you've already taken the steps you need. You've decluttered, as these ladies were talking about, and you are ready to go in terms of buying a home. One thing I did also want to mention, Lyssa was talking about when you may need to look at your systems in your house, new roof and so forth. And some contractors, as she said, will accept payment at closing, but we can also do what's called an escrow holdback. So if you don't have the funds for that new roof, you can actually make it part of the contract, and the bank holds, or the settlement company, Ryan can talk about this in a minute, the settlement company will hold the funds for the work to be done, and it has to be done within the first really 7 to 10 days after settlement. But it ensures that the work is done, the borrower is happy, and you can use funds from the net proceeds of your sale. So I'm sure, does anyone have any questions, or if you would like to contact me on a one-on-one basis, we can talk about what loans would perhaps fit your situation. But thank you all for coming and listening to us.
Thank you. And we very much appreciate a lot of good information. And Ryan Stewart, who is my favorite real estate attorney, and Toni's an amazing lender, so I highly recommend her as well, is going to talk to us about the process of closing and how the title / settlement / closing company fits into the entire home sale process. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, everyone. First off, thanks, Frazier, for putting this together. Had an invitation or two in the past, and excited to be a part of this. Certainly humbled by our gallery of speakers. Tough acts to follow for any of our attendees out there. Just a personal testimonial. If you're looking for a real estate professional, you'll find no one better than Lisa. She and her team, we've had the opportunity to work with probably hundreds upon hundreds of times over the course of the last couple decades, and they are absolutely as good as it gets. On the financing side, Toni and I have broken the proverbial bread many times at the settlement table, working with our buyers, taking out their loans and their financing needs. And obviously she knows her stuff. You can't do any better. And then ultimately, Gale, you are an institution here in 22308. I'm a Wayne-Wooder myself, and sale by Gale is really the only game in town. So if you are considering an estate sale, the downsizing, and so forth, there's really no other place to go. So ladies, I'm humbled to be in your company this evening, so thank you for including me. A quick introduction, and quick being the operative word. I'll try to keep this brief here this evening. It's a glorious evening, and I'm sure somebody's got a campfire or some s'mores ahead of them. But my name is Ryan Stewart. I am a real estate settlement attorney. I work for MBH Settlement Group. Our company is a real estate and title company. I've been doing this for about 20 years now. We've got offices and we do transactions in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, which other than Virginia may not be of relevance to any of you, but nonetheless, there is a lot of parallelism and a lot of commonality in the DMV area. We've got 20 offices throughout Northern Virginia, but I hang my hat in Old Town, and that's where I've always been for the last 20 years. Conservatively, in that window of time, I've probably done around 15,000 settlements. So I won't bore you with old settlement tales and anecdotes and so forth. But I like to think that we've seen it all over that period of time. I've had to referee or intervene in 2 fist fights in my 20 years, none of which involved any of the parties on this call. I have had a gentleman who presented me what he purported to be a little over $1 million in cash in a paper sack, and that turned out to be true when he took it down to the bank. We weren't able to process that much cash. We've seen homes flood the day before closing, the day after closing. We've seen homes have kitchen fires or burn the day before closing, after closing, and sadly, we've had both buyers and sellers die the day before closing. So you see a little bit of everything in this business, and certainly that's why when you are entertaining the thought of buying or selling real estate, you've got to surround yourself with experienced professionals. And again, at the risk of being repetitive, you can't go wrong with the folks on this call. I want to share with you just a little bit in my short window of time what a settlement company does. I want to share with you what the costs of doing so. We want to talk a little bit about the movement of money. Toni gave you so many different options by which to finance an acquisition prior to selling a home. Certainly where we come in is when you are not only selling, but you're buying. And oftentimes you're doing those back-to-back or same day, what we call coinciding settlements, and talk a little bit about that. And then briefly just make sure we've assuaged any concerns about COVID, because there seems to be a disjunctive feel in this market. As scary as it is to buy and sell real property in a pandemic, there is absolutely no better time to do so. As Toni can tell you, or has told you, interest rates are at absolutely historic lows. We still see fairly limited inventory in the area, and so supply is low and demand is high. And so for those of you considering selling a home, it's a good market to be in right now. So I would encourage you to do that. So I want to talk about any concerns on COVID on the sales side. In terms of what we do, you hear settlement company, you hear title company, closing company, and while we go by any number of those names, it sort of defines the capacities in which we operate. From a settlement and closing perspective, you work with the realtor, you work with the lender, you get your financing in order, you get the house that you want to buy or the house that you want to sell, but then of course there's a process. And that process from ratifying your sales contract and moving forward to the actual transfer of the keys from one party to the next is just that. It's a process, and it requires a party to handle that. And that's where the settlement company comes in. And so part of our job from the time we get the sales contract is to order a title search. We order a search of the land records, and they search all the grantor, grantee indexes, and the judgment lien indexes, and so forth. To the extent that the parties require or ask for a survey or the plat of the property, we have that done. That shows us where all the physical boundaries, the permanent improvements are vis-a-vis the actual property lines. We also coordinate the actual closing. I get to talk to Toni and her crew and Lyssa and her crew, and we make sure that buyers and sellers, listing agents, selling agents, and lenders are all on the same page about when the closing is going to take place, because our job, of course, is to put everything together for you and to make sure that it's a smooth, seamless process, such that you're able to just sit down as a buyer or seller and sign your documents. The settlement company also takes care of recordation in the land records. You'll come to closing. For those of you that have been through this process before, obviously there's this mountain of documents and you get all glassy-eyed and hazed over, but nonetheless, each of those documents have meaning and they have to go to different directions. A loan package back to Toni and her team, title affidavits to the title underwriter, and ultimately a deed gets recorded in the local land records. And that's what's evidencing how the property is transferred from the seller to the buyer. And then ultimately we move the money around. We take all the money in. Toni and her team on the lending side send us the loan proceeds. The buyer puts up their necessary cash to close, and then we disperse it all the different directions, to the municipality for the transfer taxes, to each of the service providers, loan payoffs, taxes, and so forth. And then ultimately the seller gets their proceeds from that piece. So that's the settlement and the closing side. We are also a title insurance provider. This is a necessary complement of the transaction. Anytime there is a lender involved, the lender is going to require a title insurance policy for the borrower to purchase on their behalf. The idea is somehow, some way, the buyer doesn't own the property. Well, they don't have a lot of reason to pay back the money. Further, if the buyer is foreclosed upon, the lender wants to be sure that they've got the first bite of the apple, that they're not waiting at the end of the line to get all of their money out, but rather they're protected by a title insurance policy. For homeowners as well, they want to be sure that their nest egg is protected. The great majority of most individuals' net worth is in the equity of their home. And so they want to make sure that if worst case happens, of course, around here, we always use George Washington's heir coming back to file a claim against the underlying 5 farms. And as absurd as that is, in the late 70s, there's a somewhat well-known litigation in which an entire condominium development west of Mount Vernon actually was subject to a litigation that purported to be just that, an heir to George Washington's estate. And to that end, those with title insurance were protected, represented, indemnified. Those without were on their own. And certainly that's an extreme example, but title insurance, much like health insurance, would protect homeowners from anything regardless of how de minimis. A contractor claiming they hadn't been paid, water lien or a sewer lien from the municipality, an issue with a building permit, all the way on up to someone else filing a claim against the underlying property. and or trying to defraud the actual homeowner. You hear the commercials about LifeLock and individuals trying to defraud homeowners. Your title insurance protects you against that. And so MBH, as the settlement company, handles not only the settlement and the closing side, but also the provision of the title insurance. When we talk about what the costs of all of this are, to sum up, settlement fees for conducting a closing are about $1,000. Here you're talking about all the different lien release fees, all the regulatory filings, the preparation of the deed, moving all the money around and actually conducting the settlement. Beyond that $1,000, Virginia charges sellers $3 per thousand in the sales price to sell real property. And then further, you're going to add on to that any incidentals like your termite inspection, if you're providing a seller credit, certainly the payoff of your loan and any broker commissions. And so to give you a real life example, if you're selling $1 million property, you can first back off $1,000 in closing costs and $3,000 in transfer taxes. You're down to $996. Call Lisa, have a conversation about broker commissions, back that out and back out the payoff of your loan, and you'll get a pretty good, solid idea about what the equity in your home is going to be. On the buy side, it can vary widely. It depends upon the type of loan you're getting. Certainly if you're paying cash, it's a whole different ball of wax. But whether it's a VA loan, FHA loan, conventional, we generally ballpark 2 to 3% of the sales price. And Toni can certainly walk you through a very, very accurate loan estimate if you're trying to quantify your costs. I wanted to talk about the movement of money. So you're selling a home. How does it get to be that you're able to buy a home at the same period of time? And we call this coinciding settlements. In Virginia, we're able to close on the sale, but unfortunately, we're not able to disperse any funds until after we've recorded the deed. Fortunately, in Virginia, it's an electronic filing, so it's almost done simultaneously, typically same day. And so the seller's proceeds from their sale can be assigned to the settlement company handling the purchase of their new home. A lot of times as a safety net, listing agents will build in a 1 or 2 day rent back where the seller can stay in the property. They no longer own it, but they continue to occupy it. And during that window of time, the funds can be applied toward their purchase transaction. They can close on that purchase, have a short window of time to move their stuff out, get into the new property, and everything is a very seamless process. And while that may seem complex, now that may seem like you're putting a lot of potential stake in the different parties to the transaction, that's precisely the reason you don't do this by yourself, that you hire a talented real estate professional who's going to be able to properly protect you on the sales side, properly negotiate that potential rent back, and leverage that assignment of funds so that you're able to apply it towards your purchase. Last but not least, when we talk about COVID right now and encouragement, if you are on the fence about selling your home, to go forth and do so, it's a dynamite time to do so. Certainly from a settlement perspective, I won't bore you with all of the precautions, all of the necessities that MBH, like any other business, has undertaken to continue to thrive in the pandemic era. But also to detail for you that as sellers, you do have some options here. Gone are the days where you really have to come in and sit down at the settlement table, pull out your ballpoint pen, and sign all your documents in the presence of the notary public right there at the settlement table. The great majority of our seller side closings we handle remotely, whether that means packaging up all the documents to you either electronically or hard copy and overnight, getting those to you so that you can make an appointment with a notary public, whether that's someone you know, a local attorney, a bank, signing the documents remotely, and then sending them back. And then further, what COVID has truly fast-tracked is what's called remote online notarization, e-signing, e-notarization. And so from a good 50% of our seller clients at this point, they're able to schedule a Zoom call, get on there with myself or one of my talented attorneys to walk them through all the documents. And on the presence of the call as well is an e-notary who will notarize all the documents electronically, cobble all the documents together, and send us a soft copy of everything so that we are then able to go forth, record, and disperse. And you can do all that from the comfort of your own home without having to come into the settlement company and potentially expose yourself to a scary situation. In sum, certainly we're all here to help. I know we've got a limited group on our call, so you all are certainly encouraged to ask any questions if you have them. I know Lisa is certainly available in our area. Toni is always available, and Gale is ubiquitous. So please don't hesitate to reach out and give any of us a call if there's anything that we can do to assist you.
Thank you so much. I think this was really helpful. It is a huge undertaking, but with the help of talented professionals, you will be well taken care of and shepherded through this process. And I really want to thank all of my colleagues who joined for taking the time to put together your presentation and the time to be with us. And I want to thank Fraser for organizing all things Fort Hunt. And we're happy that you were able to join us, and we are all here for any questions that you may have. Do we have, oh, we have a question.
Looks
Can
like
I-
Patricia's looking for contact information for all of our experts, so we can certainly be sure that
Yes.
that gets out. I assume we've got email addresses for our attendees.
Yes.
Tony, it
we
looked
will-
like they were trying to shut you down there. Did all the house lights just go out on you? That's what I was laughing about. Sorry about that.
Fraser, are you there?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have everybody's email to follow up, which I'd be glad to do, and share Gale and Ryan and Tony and myself's contact info.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll send you.
One
we'll
thing,
send you an
Lisa,
email.
if anybody came in just recently and they did not register, like they came in the past, a half hour before the workshop, just put your email in the chat, or make sure you email me, because we may not have your email if you just registered a few minutes before the workshop began. But everybody else we do have, yes.
Okay, do we have Patricia's?
Yes, we absolutely.
Okay, all right. We'll send that to you, Patricia. And then there'll be lots of questions that come up. And oh, there we got some emails. And I just thank everybody so very much for taking time. I know we're all busy, and someday I hope we can do this in person.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank
you all.
Have a good
Have a
night.
great
great
evening,
night.
everyone. Stay safe.
Bye.